Hello, and welcome to Timeless Stories for Sleep. Wherever this story finds you tonight, I am glad the world has brought our paths together. Perhaps you have settled beneath a blanket after many busy hours. Perhaps a quiet fan hums somewhere nearby, carrying cool air across the room. Perhaps rain taps softly against a distant window. Or perhaps the world outside has already fallen still. However you've arrived here, I am grateful for your company. Tonight, we will spend a little while together among some of the oldest stories humanity has ever chosen to remember. Somehow, they have crossed continents and centuries with remarkable persistence, shared by parents to children, discussed by philosophers, translated into countless languages, and managed to make it here tonight. There is something quietly remarkable about that. Aesop's fables originated in ancient Greece, roughly 2,500 years ago. Let's go back there for a moment. Imagine an olive grove just beyond the edge of an ancient village. The afternoon work is finished. The air carries the scent of warm earth and wild herbs. The rustle of leaves and wind gently brush the green fruit. Beneath the silver-green branches, neighbors gather in the shade while one familiar voice begins another story. Through thousands of years, kingdoms have risen and disappeared. Languages have changed. Empires have forgotten their own names. Yet these little stories endured. Whenever that happens, I find myself asking a simple question. What did generations before us hear in these tales that they refused to let disappear? Tonight, we won't rush toward an answer. Instead, we'll simply sit beside the fire and listen. The Wolf and the Dog. As evening settled gently over the countryside, the last rays of sunlight melted into soft shades of amber and violet. The fields grew quiet, and a soft breeze carried the scent of pine through the trees. Along the edge of the forest wandered a wolf. He had spent the day scouring the woods for food, to little avail. His belly was empty, and his stomach rumbled restlessly. But his spirit remained steady. The wilderness had taught him patience, and every sunrise offered another chance at game. As he followed a winding path, he noticed another traveler approaching. It was a house dog. The dog's coat was glossy and well kept, his gait easy and relaxed, as though he carried not a single worry upon his shoulders. The wolf smiled. "Good evening," he called warmly. "And a pleasant evening to you," replied the dog. For a little while, they walked together beneath the fading sky, enjoying the quiet company. At last, the wolf spoke. "You seem wonderfully cared for," he said. "I've rarely seen such a fine coat, or such contentment in another traveler. Tell me, what is your secret?" The dog laughed softly. "Oh, there is no secret at all. I live at a nearby farmhouse. My family gives me hearty meals, a comfortable place to sleep, and a warm fire whenever the nights grow cold." The wolf listened, intrigued. He held the dog's gaze with quiet admiration. "A warm fire every evening," he repeated. "It is a simple comfort," said the dog, "but one I never take for granted." The wolf couldn't help imagining it. A full stomach, warm, dry shelter when the rain began to fall, friendly faces waiting at the end of each day. "It sounds like a lovely life," he said. "It has been kind to me," the dog answered. The two continued along the path until the wolf noticed something unusual. Around the dog's neck, the fur had been gently worn away. He tilted his head. "My friend, may I ask about your neck?" The dog glanced down before smiling. "Oh, this. It's from my collar." "Collar?" asked the wolf. "Yes. My family puts it on each morning. Sometimes I'm kept close to the house until evening. They like knowing exactly where I am." The wolf looked thoughtfully at the collar. "And does that never trouble you?" The dog considered the question. "Not very often," he admitted. "The days are comfortable, my meals are certain, and by night I still stretch my legs beneath the stars." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Ahead, the farmhouse glowed with warm, golden light. Behind them, the forest stretched quietly beneath the rising moon. Finally, the wolf smiled. "I think," he said gently, "that your life is every bit as wonderful as you describe." The dog wagged his tail. "And yet," the wolf looked toward the open woods, "I believe mine is the one my heart would choose." The dog nodded with understanding. "And perhaps that is all any of us can hope for." The wolf dipped his head in thanks for the pleasant conversation. "I wish you many peaceful evenings beside your fire." "And I wish you clear skies, kind seasons, and joyful wandering," replied the dog. With that, they parted as friends. One followed the lantern light toward the welcoming farmhouse. The other disappeared into the quiet forest, where no path was promised, but every path remained his to discover anew each day. And so brings us to the end of our story for the night. As simple as this little tale may seem, it has endured for more than 2,000 years, because it asks a question that every generation must answer for itself. The wolf and the house dog each possessed something the other admired. One knew the comfort of a warm hearth, familiar faces, and the certainty that tomorrow's meal would be waiting. The other awoke each morning to an open horizon, free to wander wherever the forest might lead, never knowing what the day would bring. Neither life was perfect. Neither life was without sacrifice. It is often tempting to look at another person's life and imagine they have found the better path. We notice the rewards before we notice the price that was paid to earn them. We admire the warmth of the fire before we see the collar resting quietly around the neck. Perhaps that is why the wolf paused to ask a question instead of simply walking away. For it was only through conversation that he came to understand the life before him. And perhaps there is wisdom in that for us as well. How often do we envy a life we have never truly taken the time to understand? How often do we compare our own journey to one we can only glimpse from the outside? Every meaningful choice asks something of us. Security may ask us to surrender a measure of freedom. Freedom may ask us to embrace uncertainty. One is not always wiser than the other. The answer may even change throughout our lives. There may be seasons when we long for the shelter of familiar walls, and others when our hearts ache for wide open skies. Perhaps Aesop's greatest gift was not giving us an answer, but leaving us with a question. If you had been walking that quiet country road beneath the evening sky, which path would you have chosen? The warm light of the farmhouse, or the moonlit trail leading into the forest? Thank you for joining in today and keeping the tradition of storytelling alive for another night. Until next time, I wish you a peaceful rest and a good night.